what it really covers is that this whole idea of shifting your mindset into becoming a CEO.
You are listening to EducationHackers.com, podcasting from Vancouver, Canada. Education Hackers highlights successful entrepreneurs with great online courses. And now, to introduce today's guest, is e-learning evangelist Steve Atwall.
Today, I'm very excited to have Aprille Janes on the show. After almost 20 years as a successful business consultant to Fortune 100 companies, tired of the impersonal face of the corporate world, Aprille made the leap in 2003 to mentor and support small business owners and entrepreneurs because business is personal for them. Coming from heart and passion is a bold move in business, and it gives small business a distinct advantage. Aprille shows her clients how to step out of their comfort zone and be uniquely themselves in their branding, marketing, and sales. Aprille is a sought-after speaker, author, podcast host, and small business mentor. She uses her consulting experience and her training as a professional coach to help her clients stand out in today's noisy and crowded marketplace. Aprille, welcome to the show. You help small business owners and entrepreneurs make a bold move. Tell us about your bold move.
Wow, that was moving from consulting into private practice for myself, consulting with these big corporations. You know, it's a major leap, you know, even the budgets that are available to use your expertise. And it also forced me to let go of that corporate suit that you end up wearing and the mask and all of that, and learning to become more personal and bolder myself in my own business. So that was a huge leap for me. I love working with the small business person because, like I said, business is personal to them, and they can move on a dime, and they have the pulse of their customers, and it's a lot more fun.
It seems most small businesses fail because their owners run out of energy and resources. They're exhausted because they try to do everything themselves. What's your simple solution to this problem?
Let go of the way things have to be done. Concentrate on the results that you want to create, and then go find someone who can give you those results and let them do it, however it is they need to do it, as long as you get what needs to be done. So ask for help, let go of the control of how it's done, but be very clear on the results that you want from it.
Now, you've worked as a business consultant to Fortune 100 companies, studying the business processes that weren't really working for them. Why did you create your Bolder Business Bootcamp?
Well, what I found, it actually happened, I was doing I do a yearly event called the Profit Formula, and I made a statement last year, or I guess 2 years ago now, simply saying you've got to stop thinking like employees in your businesses. You need to think like CEOs. And I had more people come up to me and say, I hadn't realized I was doing that tell me more about that. I need more information. How do I make that mind shift from waiting for someone to give me permission to do what I need to do to being more proactive in my business? And it was like a light bulb went off for a lot of people in that room when I said it. And I realized we do need guidance for that, because in the education system today, we're trained to become employees. Most of us, very few of us are trained to become entrepreneurs and business owners. And there is a definite switch in that mindset, and people needed help with it. So that's what really triggered me to create this course.
Yeah, that's a really different mindset. And it seems like a lot of times people think that CEO role should really be separated from what you're doing as a business owner. And that's a really interesting way of thinking, that you need to be your own CEO.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you have to do all the things like plan ahead, take responsibility for your outcomes, and learn from the results. You know, what else does a CEO do?
Well, they do the strategic planning, but they also take, as you said, the responsibility for the results. And I find that's the biggest shift, because unconsciously we have, as employees and as the training we've had to become employees, we have all the structures around us. We have, even the desk and the phones and everything are provided for us, and what we need to do with our days. When we become our own boss, we create our own business, we unconsciously sit back and wait for someone to tell us what to do, to provide those structures. And when we wake up to the fact that we have to do those for ourselves, it's a major shift for people, and they start to move forward in their own businesses, because now it's a very subtle difference, but they're often holding back not moving ahead because they're just looking around for someone else to tell them what to do. It's like jumping from a fishbowl onto a tabletop and you're flopping around trying to figure out what to do. If you can jump from a fishbowl into your own fishbowl and create those structures for yourself, now you can still keep swimming.
That's a nice analogy, actually. That's interesting. Very visual analogy. That's good. So to become your own CEO, you don't need some special talent or be part of some special gene pool, as you put it. You don't need an MBA, but you do need some business intelligence. When I think business intelligence, I think of the formal definitions such as a technology-driven process for analyzing data and presenting actionable information to help corporate executives, business managers, and other end users make more informed business decisions. Tell us what you mean by business intelligence in the context of your course.
Well, it's again going back to these pieces of understanding what's driving you, getting really in touch with the emotional bedrock of why you're in business so that you can motivate yourself. And then around that, building the structures that you need, particularly within your business. One of the first things I tell my clients is do not do your own bookkeeping. Even if you're a bookkeeper, it's not your brilliance. It's not where you need to be operating. So part of the business intelligence is to understand where you're brilliant and then go get help for the rest, as we talked about at the beginning. It is laying out your corporate structure. There's a word that's escaping me totally, and you probably know what I mean. But what are the hats that need to be worn within your business? So there's a CEO, there's a finance officer, there may be distribution. It's a typical corporate structure, and your name may be on all of those. But the idea is business intelligence is to understand what each one of those pieces needs, and then find somebody to help you, find somebody to take over those roles so that you can grow. And that's part of being intelligent about your business. Again, coming back to let go of how it has to be done. It's the results that you want. So all of that is tied into business intelligence for me in a small business. But it's also really knowing yourself. What are your values that you bring, and what do you want your business to be known for? It's being very we've here in Canada, Target just recently is leaving. And there's so many lessons we can learn from that. That's about being unique and standing out because you are unique. And sometimes that uniqueness is very subtle. I know you and I both belong to Podcasters Paradise. Over Christmas, I got a card from John Lee Dumas welcoming me into Podcasters Paradise. I was blown away. And it's simple things like that we can bring to our small businesses that are smart moves. And for me, that's what I'm looking at for business intelligence. What's a smart move? What's common sense? What do I need to be doing that's uniquely me in my business?
Aprille, did you have a passion that was different before you created your online course?
Well, I worked in IT for many years and really enjoy that planning piece of business. I like analyzing business systems, and I like taking them and breaking them down and making them simple, so that you can take them step by step and walking through them. And I brought that into my small business and into my course, that idea of planning. It's funny though, I realized very quickly that people are not as passionate about planning as I am. Most small business owners just want to jump into action because then they feel like they're doing something. And another piece of business intelligence is simply to step back and realize that the time you take to plan is actually makes the results come that much faster. And we really do ourselves a disservice when we just jump into action, because then we don't know what our priorities really are. But with a solid plan underneath us, we know, yes, this is moving me forward. That's a distraction, and I can let it go.
It's interesting that you mentioned Target. Target is all over the news right now because they're pulling out of Canada. They're closing all their stores. And I don't know all the reasons why they're doing that, but I can say for sure that myself, I didn't see anything really unique about Target. I mean, I considered them very similar to Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they grew too quickly and they opened up so many stores so quickly that they didn't really take stock of whether they should be growing or whether they should be just stepping in with their toes and checking the water first. Well, what's your take on that?
Well, you brought up a couple of really good things, but one of the reasons, exactly what you pointed to, we love to shop at Target in the States. That's one of the reasons why they thought they they would have a good opportunity coming up here because Canadians love Target in the States. And when they came up here, they did look exactly like Walmart and Canadian Tire and all these other entrenched businesses that were here. They gave us no reason to go to them. So that's about being bolder, as my own business is named. And when we did go to them, they disappointed our expectations. And that's another huge lesson that small business can take away. We can be very personal. And as the CEOs of our own business, we can make decisions very quickly that if we decide something's not really working for our customers, or we get feedback along that way, or if it is working, we do more of it. And so we create an expectation of an experience with us, and then we deliver on that. Target didn't do that. It's a big lesson that we as small businesses can take away.
A good point there, because I don't remember them really getting any kind of feedback in terms of what do people want. I mean, I didn't see any difference in prices really compared to, say, Walmart, for example. They seem to be almost the same size as Walmart. I didn't see any real distinguishing factors with Target. So it's a good point that they didn't get enough feedback, I think, in terms of what people really wanted. And they could have been successful. There are a lot of people talking about how they could have been successful if they had enough feedback.
Yeah, they could have. And if they had met our expectations of that experience that we got in the stateside, if they had brought that up here, I think they would have had a home run. It was kind of like that Coke and New Coke thing, right? You don't disappoint the customer.
Yeah, the difference between Pepsi and Coke. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure some people can tell, but once you mix it with something else, I don't think you can really tell. So before we get into your online course, how do you relax when you're not working? How do you unwind? Do you have any hobbies?
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, I'm a writer. I write fiction, and that's a way for me to unwind. I create my own world and go in it. And I've actually been published short stories, and I've won some awards. So I love doing that. It's just a real passion for me. And I quilt. I love just that whole putting things together and the whole zen of just watching it come together. And so it just gets me out of my head and lets me let go of all that stuff. It's a great way to relax. Plus, I live on a lake, so when the weather's good, I'm out there kayaking. And when the water's stiff like it is today, I'm out there snowshoeing.
Tell us about one of your books.
Well, it's short stories. I do mostly short stories. And I've had them published in different literary magazines, and I'm actually considering putting them onto the Kindle shorts just to see what happens with some of them. One of the awards that I won was with Writer's Digest magazine, which is, anybody who's writing knows that's a biggie out there. And I won I was one of the winners in one of their short story literary sections. So that was pretty exciting. Yeah.
That's excellent. I see Writer's Digest and Reader's Digest all over the place. So what was the name of that story?
It was called Silk Purse, and it was kind of a fun story about a farmer's revenge on the encroachment of development on her property. And I don't want to go into it because that's one of the ones I want to put up on Kindle. So look for it on Kindle.
Yeah, we'll be sure to put a link in the show notes once you have it there. So
okay.
Excellent.
I'll send it along.
Yeah, that'd be great. Excellent. So let's talk about your online course, Bolder Business Bootcamp. Give us a bird's eye view of your course. What do you cover? Who's it for? And why should people be signing up for it?
Well, what it really covers is that this whole idea of shifting your mindset into becoming a CEO. And I walk you through piece by piece, what are the things that you need to be aware of, really talk about vision and results and how where we are today comes from the structures that we that we all grew up in, our families, where we worshiped, where we went to school. And it developed the beliefs that we have, which then results in the actions, and how you can go back and start to reprogram that for yourself so that you can start thinking like a CEO. I talk a lot about what are some of the attributes of being a CEO so that you can bring more of those into what you do, and also make you very aware of what employee thinking is so that when you catch yourself in it, you can recover very quickly. And then from that, I build on some of this business intelligence idea. What I'm really leading people towards is really being responsible and taking care of their business, because I would love My goal is to turn around these statistics where 80 to 90% of businesses close within 3 years. I'd love 80 to 90% to still be open because they've realized that mindset is so critical. And that's what the boot camp is built on, that building that foundation so that they can move forward from there.
I'm looking at your course, and I'm looking at the course description, and you have a lot of stuff that you cover in the course. You help your members develop a vision and strategy, solid strategic plan. You help people learn how to effectively communicate and understand your numbers, make the right decisions, and then you help them create a mission statement, a vision statement, and a strategic plan. That seems like a lot of stuff that you cover in your course there. And you have 4 different modules. Let's get into some of the stuff that you actually cover in each module. Like you have module 1, which is the values, mission, and vision. Tell us a little bit about that.
A lot of times, well, the values and mission, as a small business person, we absolutely have to be aware of those because that's our personal branding. That's the basement, the foundation of everything else that we do. And I also encourage them very much about professional development, which is part of that, because as you grow, your business can grow with you. So we lay the foundation around mission. It's what you do, it's who you are, it's who you do it for, and it's why you do it. And I have templates and things in there that people can fill out and discover what the mission is for what they do. Then I actually take it one step further and we talk about a vision statement, because the mission statement is what I'm doing today, right now, and then who I'm doing it for and who I'm doing it with and why. But the vision statement, that is how we enroll people in what it is we're doing. And it becomes a 5-year, like, this is where we're headed. And your tribe recognizes and said, yeah, I want to go with you there. There's something about it. And it guides all the goals and decisions that you make in the strategic planning that you do. So this is all foundational to everything else.
Now, you also mentioned that the good news is you don't need an MBA, just an MCS. You have to be an MCS, Master of Common Sense.
That's right. Master of Common Sense.
Right. But does that mean that guys are excluded since they don't have common sense, let alone be masters of common sense?
Well, now you said it, but I would argue with you on that one because my husband he's my strategic planner. When I'm really kind of floundering around, I'll go to him and run it by him because he is just solid common sense. So, and I think we all have degrees of it, right? And if we find for ourselves, and you and I actually talked about this before the show, that, we're often our own worst enemy because we're our own hardest critic. And so part of that common sense is to find someone who is supportive of your vision, and you have to be able to outline that vision so that you can use them as kind of to bounce that off of them and say, does this make sense to you? So it's, again, creating that board of directors, even if you wanted to take it to that corporate idea. Then what we do from there in module 2 is with the common sense. Now we talk about the strategy and the planning. And common sense there says keep it simple, especially if you're at the beginning of your journey as a business person, because the more complicated we get, the more overwhelmed we get. So that vision keeps us centered on that.
Okay, so the course is for both men and women. Just want to make that clear,
Although I talk a lot to women, it's just because it's interesting. You talk about the comments. I think what it is, women are willing to come and ask for help. And it's the whole idea of asking for directions, the map. And I think men have a harder time of doing that. And so I end up talking more to women. But I highly encourage guys to take this course too.
It's funny. Men don't seem to communicate as openly as women.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. That's a real shame.
Well, it's what they've been taught as well. And an interesting fact is that more women's businesses, founded businesses are succeeding. So guys, take a page from our book and use a little common sense and ask for some help.
Guys want to be the alpha man and don't like to ask for help, which is really bad. It's really not very good when you're in business. You need help. Everybody needs help.
Well, I think some of it too is women are taught to create community and guys are taught to compete. And that's a very different mindset in there. So again, question what you were taught and look at what's working out there. And that, again, comes back to the common sense. If it's working, you need to emulate it.
And by the way, I'm just talking in general terms, so I don't want to offend the men out there.
Same here, because, it's very true, very general.
Now, in Module 2, you get strategic. Now, you have a definition for strategy, which is to achieve a desirable end with available, usually limited means.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of this module, what will you have?
You'll have a clear vision. Well, you've got your vision. Now you're going to choose one of those things because remember to keep it simple. And I call it like your business GPS. This is a goal planning system. You're going to choose the route that you want to take. You're going to choose the destination first, and then you're going to outline the route that you want to take. And again, in broad terms for now, because you don't want to get into to-do lists and everything else yet, is what are the major steps I need, the milestones. And so you have a map that's going to help you get there. I'm just going very quickly down through this. Oh, planning. An interesting thing about planning and strategic planning is we know already that there have been studies done. It's wrong from the get-go. So let go of the idea that it has to be right or perfect. We already know that all plans are wrong from the start, which really kind of bends your mind. If they're wrong, then why do we need them to succeed, right? But it's because planning is like rocket science. When they first did the moon launches, they were off course 90% of the time. But that plan, as you tweak it, it gets you where you want to go. And if you don't have it, you don't know where to tweak and you don't even know you're off course. So that's the power of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned the journey to the moon,
Mm-hmm.
because I read somewhere that they course correcting almost every 5-10 minutes or so because they're always off course.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sending a signal and slightly nudging in, slightly making small little course corrections along the way. So I guess you have to do that in business as well.
One of the things I talk about, I mentioned the profit formula at the beginning, was the 3 steps that I take people through to create their plan. And it's very simple steps. And each one is part of that whole so that they get where they want to go.
Exactly. You talk about your planning tool that's almost as fun as crayons. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's mind mapping. And especially if you're a right brain thinker, but I'm a very left brain thinker because like you, I came out of the computer industry, but it lets go of anything having to be in a form. You take a big sheet of paper, you can have colors, you can do pictures, you can use whatever feeds your creativity, and you create this mind map. And I walk you through it in the course exactly how to do it. But basically it works the same way your mind thinks. And you pop ideas. Have you ever had a conversation with a friend where you start talking about artichokes over here and the next thing you know, you're talking about, the Vancouver Canucks, and you wonder, how did I get there? And when you follow it back, it's because your mind kept making these connections and popping them out. And that's what a mind map does. It captures those connections. And so you end up with a very rich mix of raw material that you can then take and create a unique plan for yourself, because you're doing exactly what your mind's telling you is important, what those connections are for you. I have a lot of fun with this. And one of the things I do tell people is, yes, there's programs out there that will let you do it on your computer, but I really recommend the original app, which is paper and pen, because then you're not going to get hung up in the computer piece of it. Am I doing this right? How do I get that out there? Because you just want it to flow. And that's what a mind map will do.
Plus, you won't get distracted by all those pop-ups from Facebook and Twitter and social media. Yeah, and you'll be off somewhere else surfing the web, and you'll totally forget what you started out doing.
That's right. Been there, done that.
And you have module 3, and those are the 3 E's: evaluate, estimate, and execute.
Mm-hmm.
Here you talk about your goals and how to achieve your goals and measure your progress. And you talk about the golden rules and how to implement them. Give us one golden rule.
Boy, you really put me on the spot here. Well, first one is motivation's an inside job. And that's really what in module 1, we were working on building that, getting that bedrock that you really need. What is your real goal? Often when we do goals, we say, well, how much do you want to make in the year and everything? If you peel that back, it actually represents something else to you. The money piece of it is just a way to measure it. And you need to peel it back until you get to that bedrock, that thing that's going to get you up and get you excited in the morning. Because some days it is going to be hard to get out of bed. And a CEO will get up because they've got a bigger vision. So this all ties together in that golden rule. Another one is keep it simple. We tend, especially as human beings this day and age, we tend to complicate things so much. But what you want is something that is going to be high impact, good ROI, and simple to implement, or to get the help to handle those pieces around it that are going to start to bog you down.
So do you think CEOs get up really early because they know they make lots and lots of money?
No, I think maybe there's some out there, I'm sure. But, if they're CEO of a small business, there's something about it that's got them passionate, and then why they're doing it. And it could be that they're creating economic independence for themselves. But even that, there's a reason why they want that. They might want the freedom to go in their sailboat every day, every afternoon, or they may want to be able to travel eventually without having to be chained to a desk for 9 to 5. There's something that's got them excited and passionate. And that's what I love about small business. They're not just showing up to do a job. They're showing up because it's something bigger for them.
Yeah, they have a passion for it. And it's not a job for them. It's something that they enjoy doing. And they do want to have that freedom to do other things as well. Let's talk about your fourth section or your fourth module, which is business intelligence. Now, you talk about the return on investment of your time. Is it really about the money? What's the real cost of do-it-yourself? The story of you and your business, the board of directors, and how to find them. Like, you talk about different things here in business intelligence. From the techie side, if a company is doing business intelligence, I talked to a company that's looking at the Portman Bridge here, and they're doing some business intelligence in terms of how much traffic is going over the bridges and how often and when the bottlenecks are and so on. So they're more numbers, they're more statistics. But when you're talking about business intelligence, what are you talking about? I'm
talking about being smart in your business and building a business that is model to what you need and want, because you are the owner, the CEO. So I talk about alternate streams of income so that you're not chained to your desk. There's ways to earn passive income or different silos within your own business. If you are speaking, let's say, the Dummies Guide are a great example of that. They have a model that they follow, but they can use it for all different kinds of topics. So that's one way to get alternate streams of income within a business. So I walk them through that to have a look at that to see what other ways they can be bringing in money that's not tied to their time, because we often don't look at the fact that our time is also a resource in our business just as much as our capital, our dollars. Dollars and time are both capital in our business when we're the owners. And so we need to be smart about how we use both of those, or we're just not going to manage it. We're either going to burn out or overwhelm ourselves. That brings us down to the real cost of doing it yourself. We tend to go with, when we're hiring someone to do work, we tend to go with whoever's the lowest price is if our money is tight, and who's going to work cheaper for us than ourselves. And so we really need to look at what's the offset of that, because it actually is very expensive. If your talent is connecting with people and selling them on your passion, your vision, and you're over here doing your bookkeeping and, writing your own newsletter, then maybe what it's actually costing you in new clients is a huge cost, and it's invisible until we take the time to actually walk through that. And I have a template where they can walk through and find out what that real cost of doing it themselves is, because they need to be aware of that. That's part of their business intelligence. How to communicate is we talk a lot about ways to communicate, how to communicate. Nowadays, it is about being very transparent and telling your story. Telling a story that the client sees themselves as the hero in, telling a story that shows you as a real person so that they can create that relationship with you. And sometimes what's too much to tell, because sometimes people get a little overboard on that. So I talk a lot about that. In fact, my next course that I'm developing right now is using story in your business. And then finally, I mentioned earlier around the board of directors. You cannot do it yourself. Being really smart in business is having people who you trust, who are objective about you, who will give you honest feedback, not something with an agenda attached, so that you can bounce your ideas and get that bigger mastermind that we often talk about, so that you have all of that coming into your business. To me, that's being smart about your business, and that's why I call it business intelligence.
You also talk about the cost of do-it-yourself. What is the real cost of do-it-yourself?
Well, what would the cost of doing this particular activity be versus the value of a new customer? Because as the owner, everything you do should lead directly to revenue. That really should be the final criteria that you do. And if it's not leading directly to revenue, then it's costing you. As I said, I have a template that I walk people through so that they can understand what the value is of each new customer that they bring in and the customers that they have, so they can make those intelligent decisions. Is this worth my time to be doing this over here? Is it going to create a new customer? Is it going to lead me or my team to bringing in that additional income? And if not, then here's the trade-off, here's the cost. And so we do a whole cost analysis around that.
Let's assume that I'm one of your new students and I've just purchased your course.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your first recommendation as my first step to getting the most out of your course?
Go through each module, make notes, and go through it again. So because you're going to make notes, then you're going to have a different perspective when you go through it the second time. One of the things I am adding to my course that I hadn't up to now, but I realized a lot of people have questions and they want to know how to take the next step. I'm going to do a monthly Q&A call. So it would be to get on that call as well. Even if they've only done one module, get on there and get their questions answered.
That's great. I like to get into the technical side of things so that our listeners can see how people like yourself are creating amazing courses online and some of the mechanics and some of the tools. So my listeners are people who are just either starting to create their first online course or trying to figure out ways to improve their existing course.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these questions are meant to help them decide how best to set up their online course. So for our listeners, tell us how this course is delivered. Is it audio, video, or a combination of both?
It's a combination of both. And I actually use a product called Instant Teleseminar because when I was setting it up, I wanted it to be as easy as possible for the people for my students, because not all of them are technical. And often when they think they have to do, whatever, they just throw up their hands and won't even try. So this is basically click and watch and listen. And on top of that, I've added a transcript for them. So a lot of people like to read. So I try to include the different ways people like to learn. Some people are visual, some people like to hear, other people like to have hands-on. So there's templates and workbooks attached to it as well, so that I cover all of those learning styles. We have to be very aware of that. I actually have a good friend who teaches personality dimensions, and I'm going to be reviewing some of these materials with her to be sure that I even cover the different personality types, the way people like to receive their information. Because some people, they don't want a lot of detail. Other people want the detail. So you need to have that balance in there as well. When
you say instant teleseminars, are these live courses? Or are they recorded?
They are recorded. And I'm actually, this was put together a couple of years ago. And for me, that was the best option at the time. I'm currently actually looking at breaking it down into smaller segments of maybe 15 minutes each. And I'm currently using Camtasia and YouTube to do that. So that's how my new courses are coming up. And I'm looking at coming back because people have a shorter attention span now too. But for ease of use and getting in there fast and getting started, Instant Teleseminar. You do PowerPoint slides, you load them up, you call in on the telephone, you talk through the slides. It's all recorded, and there's a replay page made immediately that you can make immediately available however you're going to deliver your program.
That's interesting. So basically you're talking to yourself.
Yes.
There's no audience. And when I think of teleseminars, I think of having an audience. Mm-hmm. But when you're recording your course, or you recorded your course, you didn't have an audience. You just used the tool and recorded everything.
I do it both ways, but for this course, I did it as a recording so that people I actually have a membership site where they go in, they get the course, and they get all the updates and everything that I put in it. But now they can do it on their own time rather than being tied to my schedule. They can go through it on their own time, which I also find these days is very important.
Oh, for sure. I found that interesting that you used a teleseminar tool to record a course. Mm-hmm. That's interesting because a lot of people that I've talked to have used either ScreenFlow or Camtasia or some other tool that they have on their computer. So what was the biggest mistake that you made when you first started creating your online course?
Wow, that's a good question. Thinking that people would be as excited about the topic as I was, quite frankly. And I had to find a way to make them understand the value and engage their interest with it. Because often what we're excited about, we use almost a shorthanded to describe it. So for me, that would have been one of them. And I think maybe a second one would have simply been not providing the transcripts and things right away. And I went back and did those because I found a lot of people wanted to be able to take them offline, make notes, highlight, and follow along as they were listening. So that was a piece that I added in after when I realized that people were looking for it.
And what was your workflow like when you were creating this course? And how did you determine what to include and not to include?
Well, full disclosure, I did it live first. So I got feedback from people and what worked for them, what didn't work for them. So that I like having I call them my test pilots. And I'll say, I'm going to be launching a course. Would you like to come in, listen to it? And your job is to give me feedback on it. So I like to do that. Then you get feedback on everything from the delivery method to the slide visuals and those things so you know what will work. The way I develop a course is I start out with what do I want to deliver? What's my main deliverable? What do I want them to walk away with? What do my clients say they need? And so that I add that in. And then I do up an outline. Then I and I mind map it. Right from the get-go, I'm mind mapping it. So I use that tool myself. Then I break it down into what seems to be logical segments, as I did with this one with the 4 segments. And then underneath of those, I review the previous segment each time, give my new material, and then tell them what's coming up next. Then I start to put my slides together from that outline.
And how long did it take you to create the course from start to finish?
Well, because I already knew all this material, and when I delivered the first one, I would say it took me a couple of weeks to create all of the outlines and the original slides. Then after that, it was a matter of tweaking it. So once I finished that first section of delivering and getting feedback, it probably took me another week to tweak it and then get it recorded and put it back up there. The biggest piece of it was pulling together the membership site and putting all the material in there.
And talking about your site, what are you using? Are you hosting on Bluehost somewhere and using WordPress?
I use WordPress, and this site, I have a software that's called Wishlist Member, and it really does handle your membership sites beautifully, and it can be integrated into PayPal or shopping carts or whatever you're using so that they come through, they purchase the program, they're immediately enrolled, and they have instant access to it. And once they're in the site, then they can see if you've got other ones that are available, and then you can start to tell people, well, if you like this one, then you might want to sign up for the next program. And so it has that nice option as well that you can make things visible.
Was there a reason you didn't use Udemy or Skillshare?
Not at the time. It seemed like for me the option that I wanted to use, but I am looking at Udemy now, I'm quite honest with you, because they have such a great distribution system. I mean, people come to them looking for it. And that is one of the challenges that I find, is to let people know that this course is out there. So I am looking at a way to make it more available through a platform that has its own traffic.
Yeah, they have a huge distribution system, and they're everywhere. So marketing is really good for them. Some people say that some of their promotions may reduce your price a bit too low sometimes, but they have a huge distribution network. So where are you hosting your videos, audio media for your course? On your website, Vimeo, YouTube?
No, they're all on Instant Teleseminar. That was the other reason that I like that as a simple, no barrier option to get into, because I also train my own clients how to do this, and they are looking, many of them aren't technical, and so this is a great way for them. They do their slides, they load them up, and like I said, you call up and you just walk yourself through that and talk it. Now you've got a link that you can share anywhere, and people can, it's very simple. There's no uploading, downloading, or anything else. It's a real, very low barrier to getting into doing webinars, teleseminars, and things, and recorded material like this.
Well, what do they charge for that in terms of hosting?
It's about $47 a month, so it's pretty reasonable. And I use it for a lot of things. I do live webinars on it. I also use it when I'm working with my clients. We both call into that, and I record the calls so that they have access to their calls. So I have a lot of use out of that one platform. It's very versatile.
And how much space do they give you for that?
Yeah, quite frankly, I don't know. I've been using it for a couple of years and I've never had a problem about space.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And what payment system are you using and why?
I use PayPal because I find it's just simple. People are used to PayPal now. They trust it. And again, because I teach my clients to do these things, I try to keep it as simple for them as possible. And I find PayPal just, again, reduces that barrier. I also use on my website WooCommerce, and so that I can set up products and but it all ties together. It all talks with Wishlist member or PayPal, no matter what I'm selling out there. I keep it as simple as possible because I also believe the simpler I can keep it, the less it's going to get broken.
Yeah, definitely PayPal is way simpler than some of the other payment methods where you might need a SSL certificate.
Yeah. And I did have a big shopping cart and everything else. And, I found what was happening is it was so complicated to set up. First off, then I needed someone else to do it all the time. And sometimes there was stuff I just wanted to put out quickly, but there were so many steps. If something got forgotten, you'd have a launch and then you found out it blew up. So I decided I really wanted to pull it back and make it as simple as possible.
And how do you market your course? What's been most successful? Social media, blog posts, webinars, or something else?
Webinars. I find introductory webinars are great, and I market those through social media, on my site, through my newsletter, and face-to-face invitations, letting people know that I've got one coming up. And for that, I've started using a platform called Easy Webinar, because I can do the first one live and then I can schedule it and it plays at certain times, and people can, again, around their busy schedules, can fit it in a way that works for them.
So looking back, what was the one tool, software, or hardware that you absolutely needed to create your online course?
I would say it was PowerPoint. I mean, as simple as that is, it's PowerPoint, because I can do so many things with that. And I've added Camtasia now so I can record with that. But PowerPoint, really, the basic is that. It lets me think, it lets me evaluate, it lets me create visuals and make my notes and everything else. I just find it a really powerful tool for that.
That's interesting, because you can add video and animation into PowerPoint. It takes a little bit more work, but you can do it.
Yeah, and you can, YouTubes and everything else, you can put them right in there, and I just find it very versatile.
So how do you support your course members? Do you have an online forum somewhere?
I didn't up to this point, but I'm just starting one now. I've started it about a month ago, and it's just a private Facebook group that they can come in and join and become part of a community. And plus this once a month phone call that I have just added in the new year, where they can call in and Q&A. And it doesn't even have to be about the course. If they've got questions about their business themselves, as a coach and a consultant, I'm happy to be part of that for them.
I think a lot of people have questions sometimes, after they start a course, and it's nice to be able to not only ask those questions, but also connect with other members who are taking the course. Take a few minutes and offer your best, most practical advice to anyone thinking of creating their first online course or training.
Oh, the best advice to me is always keep it simple, because if it's complicated for you, you can almost guarantee it's going to be complicated for your student, and they're going to feel that it's overwhelming, or they can't get their arms around it, and they'll walk away, because people are so overwhelmed these days. So keep it simple. I try to find 3 main points. Now, in this, it's a different module. So each module has 3 points in it that I was delivering. So 3 is a magic number, and it seems to be a number that we can all absorb. So it's a great way to, again, to simplify and not to overcomplicate for people. They can only absorb so much. And you might be really excited about this, the topic that you're teaching, but they can only absorb so much. And so break it into modules, break it into courses, break it up so that they get what they need. They can go away and do something with it and then come back for the next piece.
That's really good advice. I think a lot of times we assume things. We assume that our students know things which they don't. And because we already know it, we already know it. So we assume that the basics, our students already know the basics, and sometimes they don't. So we have to think like the student. And I like your idea of having a seminar or teleseminar and having instant feedback and to help you create that course. That's excellent. So Aprille, we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank you so much for being an amazing guest on Education Hackers and for sharing such valuable insights and advice. It has been a real pleasure speaking with you. Where can people connect with you online?
My website is called bolder-biz.com. That's B-I-Z or B-I-Z, depending which side of the border you're on, bolder-biz.com. And from there, they can find my blog and my podcast and everything else. And there's a contact page. Please, I love to hear from people. So if you contact me through my site, I will get back to you.
Thanks for listening to Education Hackers. Check out the show notes and click the Love It button at educationhackers.com to send us some iTunes love. Until next time.